This is the timing light that we're going to use to adjust the distributor. And basically that sets the ignition timing. And again, this is like a fancy strobe light. The way it works is there's a couple leads on the timing light. You have to basically hook up 2 leads to the battery. So you have a red and a black lead. Let's see. So these 2 leads here are going to hook up to the battery on the vehicle, which powers up the timing light. Red positive, black negative. This third wire here, which looks a little different, this is what we call an inductive pickup. So what it has inside is a device that can actually pick up the spark. And all you have to do is find number 1. And we know number 1 is up here. And you actually take this and clamp it around the wire. So you put it like that. You don't even have to cut the wire or anything. You actually just clamp it around. You put it in a little notch there. And you put it on the wire. Okay, then we actually start the engine up. We're going to come over on this side and we're going to actually point the timing light down at the marks here, which, like I said before, that will actually make it appear that the marks freeze. Every time the light flashes, it'll actually make the marks freeze. So if you put a mark where number 10 was on here, meaning that was 10 degrees before top dead center, and it wasn't lined up to that aluminum piece that's sticking out of the front of the engine, what you have to do is loosen up the back of the distributor mount, which is back here. Okay, this bolt right here, you have to get a wrench down in there. They do sell special distributor wrenches that are kind of bent at an angle to get back there. And once that's loose, you can actually twist the distributor slightly. And when you do that, you're actually going to be able to turn the top of the distributor one way or the other. And while you turn it, you're going to actually put the rotor, which is spinning inside the distributor cap, in a different position, maybe earlier or later getting to the tower. And that will actually move the mark on the front of the harmonic balancer. So the idea is to move the distributor while it's running until the marks are lined up. The mark that you put on it 10 degrees before top dead center, and the little notch that's in the front of the engine. And you're basically going to be able to set the timing. Once it's set, you can disconnect the timing light and just tighten the bolt up. Make sure it doesn't move when you tighten the bolt in the back of the engine. Now, if you take the distributor, let's say you have to replace an intake manifold gasket. So if you look right here, here's your intake manifold. That's the back of it. You have to basically take all this stuff off and you have to replace the intake manifold gasket. The problem here on this engine is the distributor actually goes through a hole in the intake manifold. So if you need to take this manifold off to replace this gasket, you're going to have to take the distributor out. Now, what you want to do, if you want to make it easy for yourself, is you want to move the engine with a wrench or whatever other device you have. So that mark on that harmonic balancer, that heavy line right here, is exactly lined up to that mark, or this little part that sticks out of the front of the engine. When that's lined up, that means that you're exactly at top dead center of number 1. So on the distributor, when you take let's say you lift the distributor off, let's say you take the cap off, the rotor will be pointed right where number 1 tower is. So this is number 1 distributor tower. The rotor, where the little terminal is on the outside, will be pointed right where my finger is. That's because it wants to fire number 1 because it thinks it's at top dead center of number 1. So if you take the cap off and then you take the distributor out and you put the cap, let's say you put the distributor right back in with the rotor lined right up to this position where my finger is again, as you drop the distributor in, you'll be where the rotor should be. You could put the rotor in all different positions though. If you're off by 1 tooth, maybe 1 tooth this way, 1 tooth this way with the distributor, it's not going to run so good. You may have to pull it out again and then reposition the distributor 1 tooth. And again, the bottom of the distributor is going to have a gear on it. The gear has to have in the right position when you drop it into the engine in order for the rotor to be pointed to the number one cylinder. Once you get everything set up, you can just snug up the bolt, but then you're going to have to start it up and do your adjustment on the timing because you just set it up at 0 or close to 0. You're going to want to set it up to whatever the manufacturer's base timing specifications are. So that's basically it with firing order and doing ignition timing, and also if you want to pull a distributor out, put it back in again. Those are some of the procedures you have to follow. With the newer ignition systems that we have with coil per plug ignition, which again, most of the newer cars, you don't have to worry about any of this stuff because they don't have distributors anymore. But a lot of older cars, distributors kind of were around through the 2000s also on some vehicles, so they didn't disappear, not till recently. So you're going to still see distributors on a lot of cars. All right, that's it for this one.